It's time to let your sports opinions fly for the main event. A 7-team elimination match to decide the District 4 3A Championship. Presented to you live by PilotPointBearcats.com. This 10-week match has been sanctioned by the University of Interscholastic League. Our celebrity referee for the District 4 3A show is none other than the daytime psychology professor, Texas high school football storyteller, North Texas insider, and DFW Inside High School Sports, the most feared member of the Texas high school mafia, the one, the only, small town Digsy, the professor,
If you're like me, when you listen to this show, you go back and re-listen to that intro like I do. I love that intro, and thank you to the Pilot Point Bearcat Network for making such an amazing 2022 Season 2 intro. I am Matt Diggs, the professor, and this is the District 4 3A Report, Episode 2 of Season 2. And I'm very excited to be back for one more year, as we talked about last week. And we will go until there are no more District 4 3A teams in UIL football. And if anything like last year, we'll be going for a while. We'll go to the end of the season if that is the case. But who will those teams be? Will it be the Brock Eagles or will it be the Whitesboro Bearcats? We will discuss today, and I'm sure other people might think it. Maybe it's the Pilot Point Bearcats. Maybe we got the Paradise Panthers or Peaster, or what's going to happen in this district. That is what the District 4 3A report hopes to answer every single week. And every single week, if you are new to our format, we walk through the week that was, we look at the week ahead, and we look at the big picture, and the big picture being Region 1 and how everything is going to shake out. So it was an exciting week, and this week we saw what many people think is the number one team in District 4 3A pretty much get a butt whooping. Good old country butt whooping. And when you really dig into this, very interesting game. Pleasant Grove against Brock. Pleasant Grove won 28-7, but this game was 7-0 Brock at halftime. And then Pleasant Grove pretty much rolled off 4 straight possessions with scores in the second half to win the game 28-7. Pleasant Grove is not a passing team. They're very much a ball control team, and I think that really tells the story of this game is that Pleasant Grove was able to consistently run on Brock, kind of like Lorena was last year. You look at Spencer Danner had 15 carries for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaden Stewart, 8 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. And Jalen Bordy also had 7 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. And 2 other players also had 8 carries, Akari Johnson and Cade McFadden. So that shows the depth of the Pleasant Grove running unit. And what that tells me, since every single player averaged at least 4 yards, the 2, Akari Johnson and Cade McFadden, on the low end, averaged 4 and 5 yards, but Jalen Borden, Jaden Stewart, and Spencer Danner averaged 11, 8, and 7, respectively. That tells me that Pleasant Grove beat the dickens out of Brock at the point of attack, the line of scrimmage, that they were able to open up holes in just about anybody. I'm not saying these 5 athletes for Texarkana Pleasant Grove were chopped liver, but the fact that 5 athletes in 4A were able to run for that many yards and run consistently speaks to the depth and the size of the Pleasant Grove offensive line. So that's a little bit concerning for Brock. And then when you look at Brock offensively, they just didn't get much going. Tyler Moody only had the ball 12 times, 6 for 12 for 81 yards and an interception. Our guy Brett Tutter, the returning sophomore coming back as a junior, he had a nice night. 17 carries for 82 yards and no touchdowns. Tyler Moody had the only touchdown rushing the ball for Brock. Reed Watkins had a big reception. 62 of the 81 yards came in one big play, setting up Brock's only touchdown of the day. So pretty much, other than one big play, Brock completely got shut out of this game. And it's a little concerning, and it'll be able to see as the weeks go on if this is something that is a trend, or if Texarkana Pleasant Grove, I believe I saw they were ranked number 5 in 4A Division II. If it was just one of those mismatches, and clearly we know that Brock has taken the route of having a tougher schedule, and only time will tell if that's a better thing. This game only had 90 plays. I've seen games where some of our District 4 3A teams run 90 plays just themselves. So it was a very quick game, probably done by 9 o'clock. Just moved very quickly, and Texarkana Pleasant Grove came out on top, which cast dispersions on our number 1 team, the Brock Eagles. Let's go to our number 2 team, our Whitesboro Bearcats. They defeated the Crum Bobcats 41-16. And again, it was the usual suspects for Whitesboro. A lot of people thought that Crum would be in this game. I saw some computer modelings of this game that had it a little bit closer. I had Whitesboro big in this one, and Whitesboro definitely showed out. Matt Harper just continued where he left off last year. 15 for 23 for 308 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did throw for 2 interceptions, a little concerning on the turnover side of things. That's something that Whitesboro has to clean up a little bit. Rushing the ball, Mac Harper was the big rusher as well, 6 for 67 with a touchdown. And then Max, with 2 X's, I like that, Max Parker, 10 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown himself. And a good thing about Whitesboro is I heard at the scrimmage that Grayson Ledbetter, who got hurt last year, got hurt early this year. But it doesn't appear to be serious from what I'm hearing from my Whitesboro sources, that it's week to week. We don't know when he's going to be back. But obviously the more weapons that Whitesboro has, the better they're going to be, and the more they can spread out their talent, and as many of their players play both ways, it will really help out for Whitesboro for the depth to have Grayson Ledbetter in. But I will say, even without him last year, Whitesboro made that big run after he got hurt, and Whitesboro just picking up right where they left off. Receiving the ball, Carter Sluter, my man, my guy, 6 receptions for 199 yards, couple touchdowns, just an amazing effort. I saw Jason Della Rosa named him one of the players of the week, our guy up at the Sherman Democrat, whatever it's called up there. I think maybe it should be called the Denison Democrat. I don't know what I can't think of the name offhand. My memory doesn't work like that. But I know Jason Della Rosa has been there for years, has a great eye for the northern DFW area. See, I won't call it the Texoma area, the northern DFW area. So quite the honor for Carter Sluter to be named Player of the Week on that, or nominated for player. He was definitely recognized by our man Jason Della Rosa. Also for Whitesboro, we had Jay Sanders again picking up where he left off, 4 receptions for 76 yards. And a name I know we're going to start to see a little bit more, and we'll probably see a lot next year. Clay Hermes only had 3 receptions for 30 yards, but he's also the backup quarterback, and now they're getting him at receiver. So he's really going to be a key component to this Whitesboro offense for the next couple of years, because we're getting to the point where they're a little senior heavy. Mac Harper is a senior, Jay Sanders is a senior, Sterling Garton is a senior. He had a good rushing attack. So Jay Sanders is a senior. We'll have Carter Sluter back, and Brett Donaldson, as well as Colin Phillips, who got to touch the ball. He's a new name as a sophomore as well. So we'll get to learn more about these players as we continue. Quite a dominant performance for Whitesboro this past week. Tolar versus Peaster, a little bit of a surprise. Our Tolar Rattlers, Hood County's favorite team. You can't listen to the dump, but if you watch the dump every Friday at midnight, I guess that'd be Saturday morning, you'll know that Tolar is Hood County's favorite team. And even though they are Hood County's favorite team, I went against the grain, and I picked the Greyhounds of Peaster to win this game, but Tolar won that game 29-15. Interestingly enough, as you know, I have lots of friends in Tolar. Tolar was not very impressed. Some of the fans in the stands said that that game got a little chippy. I don't know if they had something happen in basketball or another sport, or if Tolar was a little bit more fired up, or Peaster was a little bit more fired up. But that'll be something to kind of keep our eyes on. If Peaster is easily agitated, this is now kind of a bit of a losing streak for Peaster going back to last season. They need to start putting some good games together and some wins together very quickly, because they seem to have all of the pieces. And a lot of those pieces are seniors. You have Gunnar McElroy, who threw 2 touchdowns, but also had 2 interceptions. Went 17 for 25 for 193 yards. Also ran the ball 13 times for 27 yards. Pretty much got locked down by that Tolar defense. Tremar Gilbert had both touchdowns receiving for our Peaster Greyhounds. 5 for 71, 53-yard touchdown was his long 2 touchdowns. But really, it was the Jackson Recluse show. Recluse for Tolar had a great day, especially throwing the ball efficiently and not causing turnovers. 10 for 16 for 107 yards. But on the ground, Peyton Brown for Tolar had 25 carries for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns as a sophomore. So we're still excited about Tolar. Peaster has some questions to answer after they lose the first week. Going into Lindsay against Paradise, we got to learn who the next big player for Paradise was going to be. Paradise had a nice win, 36-7. But this is a game that really got very much like Brock and Texarkana Pleasant Grove. It got away from Lindsay in the second half. This game was 8-7 going into halftime, but Paradise scored 4 touchdowns in the second half to kind of give a little more of a cushion, 36-7 in that game. And Austin Iglesias is the player that we need to keep an eye on for Paradise over the next couple of years. He did everything for Paradise pretty much. 9 for 14 for 114 yards, and rushing is where he really did damage. 16 carries for 169 yards. 5 of those 16 carries went for touchdowns, averaged 11 yards. So what a day for Austin Iglesias as they got that first win in a very convincing way. Moving on, to me, it was a little bit of an upset. Pilot Point against Callisburg. I thought Callisburg would win this game, but Pilot Point did take it 28-13. A little bit of an ugly game, a little bit of a slobber knocker, as we like to call it. But another, what do you expect from Wyatt Smith? Just a clean game, a crisp game, 12 for 17 for 200 yards and a touchdown. Gage Anderson stepped right back up, carrying the ball, carrying the load for Pilot Point, 10 for 33 yards and a touchdown. 2 other players scored touchdowns. Wyatt Smith got a touchdown rushing, and Colin Lynch, a senior, got a touchdown as well. So really didn't get a lot of touches for Pilot Point, as far as they only threw the ball 17 times, only rushed the ball 20 times. So it was a situation where very limited plays, but they were very efficient in their use. Pilot Point with a nice win, getting out on Callisburg. Now, for me, the most unexpected result was Ponder. And when I started to dig into this box score a little bit, I will say, if you're like me and you go to Max Preps to check out these scores, I don't know what to make of these stats because they're clearly inaccurate. Because we had, if you would believe them, Ponder had 1,100 yards of offense. So I don't know, what is going on. What I think most likely happened is maybe some of the rushes were receptions, but it said Clifton Cooper had 28 for 33 for 505 yards and 7 touchdowns. That much I can believe, but the rushing yardage I'm a little bit skeptical on, given the fact that I doubt they threw for 505 yards and rushed for 571 on top of that. But again, just about all of the big players that we thought would step up for Ponder did in week 1. I look at Clifton Cooper, obviously had some sort of big day. Dylan Cope receiving the ball. Case Peacock, Tad Tamplin, Zane Cassidy all had big days of some sort We'll hopefully try to get some more clarity on that. But Ponder with a very big win, and with Peaster having a little bit of a problem. I think when we look at the four Ps right there in the middle, going for 6 spots, I think it might be a little bit more compressed this week than it was into last week. And finally, we have Boyd against. Who did Boyd play? Because I do not have it up currently. They played Blue Ridge, our good friends right down the road in Collin County, and they had their way with Blue Ridge, 45-26. And we talked about our baseball star last week, Braden McIntyre, and he had a good day for Boyd. Really just stepping in for where their all world player last year kicked in. Just great game for Boyd. Rendon Lamance was the player last year. Braden McIntyre did play a bit last year, but when you have a talent like Rendon Lamance pretty much running the show, you could see they try to get him the ball a lot. But I mean, Braden McIntyre had a couple of big games last year. Had almost 1,000 yards passing going into this year, so he's not completely new. But how do you replace Lamance? Well, Gavin Rosado definitely stepped up and filled the role for Boyd. 32 carries for 147 yards, 4 touchdowns. Braden McIntyre with a very efficient day, 20 for 40, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So when you got both of those players just on high gear, I think Boyd is even a little bit better than we thought. So this is really going to be a fun district. I don't think the bottom of the district is as weak as some might think. With Boyd and Ponder, I don't think, and maybe I'll end up being wrong. I don't think that they're going to be 5 to 7 touchdowns down to the Pilot Point, to the P's of the world, minus Ponder, the 3 P's that I think will be competing for the last 2 playoff spots. I think Boyd and Ponder will be a lot more competitive. Now, they did play some weaker competition, and I think this week will tell us a lot because Boyd and Ponder play teams that we would expect to maybe be 2 touchdown favorites over them. So if they are able to step up and win those kinds of games, then I think that perhaps maybe they might have a little bit more something than I think. Now Ponder takes on Fort Worth Dunbar. I don't know if Dunbar is that down. They had a little bit of a struggle in week 1, and Jacksboro also struggled in week 1. I think I would obviously take Jacksboro and Dunbar in those games, but I'll also be looking for how those games played out to see if Boyd and Ponder are getting better. Whitesboro versus Bells last year was one of those games that I kept calibrating as I got going in the District 4-3A report and started kind of keeping an eye on that on this district. That was a game I looked back at last year as, okay, Whitesboro, they played Bells into overtime. So what will happen this year with this? I think Whitesboro will take care of Bells in a pretty, I don't want to say they're not going to blow them out by any means. We're not going to see the kind of score, the 41-16 that they put up this past week. But I could see a 35-21 kind of a game. I think Bells will trade touchdowns with them a little bit earlier, but I really like Whitesboro in this game. Pilot Point with their yearly opponent of Plainview. Somebody at the Pilot Point Bearcat, I probably asked this last year about why Pilot Point plays Plainview every year, and I don't even remember. We'll have to get our historian over there at pilotpointbearcat.com, the Bearcat network, to let me know this rivalry between Pilot Point and Plainview. So I don't like to be wrong. So I went to go research Plainview, and they've not played a game yet this year. So that makes it a little even harder to calibrate this game. I did see that they had a 3-way scrimmage with Ada and some other team in Oklahoma. So I think Pilot Point with just a little bit, and they won last year, 30-28. I think Pilot Point with just a little bit of game experience, I think I'll give them a little bit of the edge. We'll be waving our Bearcat flags here on the Bearcat Network for both of our Bearcats this week. Paradise against Munster. I think Paradise has a really good chance to beat Munster. I think some might consider it an upset. But Munster, a little bit down. They beat Lindsay pretty solidly, and Lindsay and Munster, I wouldn't say they're similar. They're always very good in that 2A Division One or 2A Division Two, depending on how realignment goes in any given set, because they're right there on the lines. But I think Paradise will beat Munster, so I like them. Brock against Wichita Falls Hershey. Hershey is just a fascinating story. If you followed high school football, then you know that Wichita Falls Hershey is closing down. They're consolidating 3 high schools into 2. So these are the final games of Wichita Falls Hershey, and they were a team that was just a couple of plays away from winning a state championship, or at least getting to play for a state championship last year. And I really like Hershey. They lost their coach in the offseason because who wants to really be at a school that's about to close? And I mean, since we're going from 3 to 2, somebody's got to go. So I guess there's kind of the ultimate interim tag over there. But this is one of Hershey's best and most talented teams. And we saw what happened with Texarkana Pleasant Grove with size and talent. Well, Hershey's going to be more of the same. I think Hershey will beat Brock. I think Hershey will win pretty convincingly against Brock. I could see a 35-14 kind of a final. Wichita Falls Hershey has athletes for days and offense for days. Peaster takes on Fort Worth Castleberry. I think Peaster will bounce back, but if Peaster is more down than we think, then I think this is really going to show us the gap between Peaster, Ponder, and Boyd if Peaster can't win this game, because I think Ponder and Boyd are going to be playing up a little bit. And if Peaster can't just completely knock around Castleberry, then I'm going to be very concerned about Peaster. Like, just something chemistry-wise isn't there, especially with all the players that they have coming back. So I'm a fan of Peaster, and I think that was more of Tolar's strength than Peaster's weaknesses. So I'm going to take Peaster in a bounce-back win. So got Whitesboro over Bells, Pilot Point over Plainview, Paradise over Munster, Jacksboro over Boyd, Dunbar over Ponder, but both very close games. Hershey Big over Brock, and Peaster over Fort Worth Castleberry. Well, last week I teased that we would take our first look at the region, and we will, as we're kind of going through the non-district schedule before we get into the district schedule and really start to break down the playoff spots. I think it's important to look at the region and kind of see what you have going on in districts 1, 2, and 3, because that will pretty much determine the route of our 4 teams that make it from the playoffs. And it's a very small region. In District 1, you only have 5 teams. In District 2, you only have 5 teams. In District 3, you have 6 teams. And then District 4, our district, you have 7 teams. So we have the least chance to get teams out of the playoffs, whereas in District 1 or 2, 80% of the teams will make the playoffs. And it also means they won't even be starting district for another month, whereas we are just a couple weeks away from district play getting going in our district. But District 1 in Week 1, we saw Brownview and Denver City win, La Mesa, Slayton, and Kermit lose. And none of these teams really stand out as being strong. I think Brownfield and Denver City, your top 2 teams, are kind of what you might see Paradise, Pilot Point, that kind of level. So, I mean, that would be a 50-50 game. If they got that far, they would have a chance to maybe go 2 or 3 deep. Now, District 2, I do think you have some strength here. The top 2 teams in this district, Shallow Water and Bushland, both had nice wins in Week 1. And I think these are 2 teams that very much are like Whitesboro and Brock potentially. Shallow Water might beat Brock this year if Brock doesn't get their act together and start to show us some offensive prowess and show us some strength in the trenches. I think Shallow Water and Bushland both have a chance to do well. Whatever the other 2 teams are in the district, very much like La Mesa, Slayton, and Kermit, any of those 2 teams could make the playoffs. Same with Amarillo, River Road, Muleshoe, and Dalhart. I'm not seeing quite anything yet out of those teams. But it's a long season. We still have 9 weeks to go. A team that really impressed me and caught my eye last week was Vernon, winning 56-0. I thought they were going to lose last week, and then they come across and just completely beat up. I can't remember their opponent offhand, but they just, they said, okay, you're going to pick us to lose. We'll go ahead and show you what's up and they beat Wichita Falls City View. I picked City View to win that game by 10, and Vernon won that game by 56. So either City View is down, Vernon is up, or a little bit of both. And I think at least Vernon being up is one of those things. Jim Ned got smacked around a little more than I thought they would. They have a big game against Holiday this week. I'll be taking Holiday in that game. And if Holiday pulls off that, I think we're going to have to start thinking Jim Ned. This might be Vernon's district. If you remember Breckenridge, they had a run late in the year, and they had a big one to get started out with. And they'll play Childress this week, so that'll be a good test for Breckenridge. But I think Vernon, Breckenridge, Jim Ned, and Iowa Park will be your four teams in that district. And at least Jim Ned and Vernon will always be tough. But Breckenridge and Iowa Park, that's not going to be a fun when you look at the District 3 versus District 4. You always go 1-4, 2-3 in your games, and 3-2 and 4-1. So if you look at it, Whitesboro will be playing a team like Breckenridge, and Breckenridge got real hot last year. You would have a team like Brock playing a team like Iowa Park if Iowa Park ends up number 4. So those are very dangerous games. Those are not gimmies. Those two, Iowa Park and Vernon and Breckenridge, are right there with what I would consider Brownfield and Denver City. So, I mean, definitely teams that could, if you get a turnover or two, you never know what could happen with those teams. Very good region, but nothing. There's just no, there's not a Gilmer or Carthage or anybody in this. Brock is that team. The team that nobody wants to play. But we have some questions about Brock, so I think that gives Whitesboro, Shallow Water, Bushland, Brownfield all a chance to look at things and go, hey, we might be able to get out of this region, and we might be able to get to the state semifinals. And next week we'll talk a little bit about Region 2 and how that's faring, because ultimately last year, if you remember that Mount Vernon versus Brock game, that was one of the best games of the state. Many people thought Mount Vernon should have beat Brock in that game, and we'll look at how Region 2 is faring for potential semifinal games for either our Whitesboro Bearcats or our Brock Eagles. We think one of those two teams will make it to the state semifinals. We have to wave our District 4 3A flag. But we've been waving our District 4 3A flag for about 27 minutes now. So I'm going to send it back to the Bearcat Network to send us home. So for the professor, for all of our friends in Pilot Point, all of our friends watching from all over the District 4 3A landscape, thank you for tuning in for another episode 2 of Season 2 of the District 4 3A Report. I'm Matt Diggs, and the road goes on forever, and the party never ends. Hit my music, Pilot.